Welcome to this unique initiative by Nippon India Mutual Fund. We call it the Wealth of Success. Here we celebrate and share with you the success stories of eminent personalities from our industry. Today we have with us Mr. Kartik. Kartik is owning the firm Guardian Capitals. And in the process, I think, he has managed to raise assets more than 200 crores. He's absolutely new in the sense that when he started the business just very shortly, but then in a very short span of time, has been able to build this business to this particular stage. So welcome, Kartik.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Kartik, a couple of questions, and before I get into the core parts, I think I just want to understand
Mhm.
you. When you started this business, you clearly saw this as an opportunity. You had the vision, and you realized that there is a lot of potential that is there in the financial industry. Why don't you
Mhm.
just take us through the journey and tell us uh, how did it all start? What went through your mind when you said that you want to get into this and took over this role?
Right. So when we first started, the objective was really to make sure that no matter what we did, size didn't matter. We needed to be the best on the planet. That was the real big objective that we had. When I started this, I used to work for a company, and my objective personally was to do something I would do for free. So find something that I would really love doing, like playing tennis or playing cricket. And if you're very good at it, then you get paid. So finance was something that I was always in. Investing was something that I was always interested in, and I used to read a lot and manage money on the side. What I saw in the industry when I came back to India was it was highly fragmented, and it was really wasn't very clear that what the value add that was being given to the client was, right. So I felt like if we do start off over here and do things right, we can make a substantial difference for the client. So that's what really got us going. And the business model seemed like it was viable as long as it was done efficiently and well.
Perfect. So I think clearly you understood the landscape of the industry as such, and basis that you probably thought that it's a good idea to get into this business. But then I have no doubts that there are plenty of challenges that you must have faced when you got into that, and these challenges could have been in any form or any shape. Uh, what kind of challenges broadly, if you have to put two or three major challenges that you faced? How did you overcome these challenges? Because today I can say that you're fairly successful in whatever you have done. So can you
Right.
just help us understand that?
Sure. So, as an entrepreneur, like any other entrepreneur, you're going to find challenges every single day, right? But I would say the biggest challenges when you start off, and there's always an issue with money and regulators. Is I would think I could put them into three buckets. The first would be semi-regulation, really trying to understand it, trying to find someone who understands it well, and trying to interpret it and see how it's going to work. How do you need to structure the operations within your company? That's the first one. The second one is in an industry that's fragmented, and there is a deficit of education. Hiring becomes a big challenge. So that was something when we started off that we struggled with. To combat that, what we did is we made sure that in initially when we couldn't pay higher salaries, that we structured the company in such a way, and the culture was built in such a way that people were excited to come in. Today, of course, we pay 20% more than most other people in the salary structure. But that was definitely an issue. It still is. We hire constantly and meet people during the year. It isn't that only when there is a position that's out that we hire. We look all the time for talent out there. We spot it, and when the time comes, we bring it in. The third thing I think that would have been an issue is really education when it comes to your clientele, right? Trying to explain, because it is a partnership in the end between you and your clients. The money needs to come in when it's appropriate, and they also need to give you the money when it's appropriate, and there are incentives out there, right? So that constant education and bringing the client on the same philosophy that we have was another challenge. So to combat that, we do everything for the client. So we meet every month, we do the education sessions, and as a result, it is really more of a partnership than anything else. When the time comes and there is opportunity out there, there's a mutual trust where the money comes in and gets deployed in anything where there's really good quality, as long as the prices are reasonable or cheap.
Okay, so from my understanding, I think from where I stand and the way I have observed things, you're clearly a new age firm. So you basically started molding your organization in a structure which probably will be able to take challenges of anything that is recent and probably readjust to it very very comfortably. But then what I've seen that in this particular industry of ours, there are a lot of players who have been there for quite a long period of time, and until unless the pandemic happened, nobody embraced digital in the way it is being embraced at this point of time. In fact, today I would say that there is a certain amount of ferocity with regards to how digital is adopted. What is your take in terms of how digital is significant in our business, and why people should adopt digital? Can you just throw some light on that?
So I think I would take a step back over there, right, and say that essentially this digital transformation has been happening for years in various different industries, whether it is how to build a car, or in the financial industry. It is just more prominent now because it's up in your face, right? The question that we over here at Guardian try and address isn't the digital versus the non-digital. It is a question of client centricity. So, what does the client want? There'll be clients out there who don't want to meet you and want to do everything over the phone. There'll be clients out there who do want to meet you and do not want to do anything over the phone. There are clients out there who want to just message each other and call you only when they need something. And there is no client out there that wants to put in more effort than is required, right? So digital is one aspect of building your own organization, but the objective of the organization has to be client centricity. So, what is the most convenient thing for the client, and how do you get from point A to point B with the least amount of effort, right? I think there's a long way to go in terms of digital transformation when it comes to our industry as well as India specifically, because what you really want is the beginning to the end digitized, right? That becomes very different when there are gaps in between and you have to create APIs, and flows don't happen very clearly. But you do have clients in there, like for instance, 70s and 60s, who are not going to now start learning how to use technology, and you have clients in the 30s or maybe 20s who would much rather use technology. And your objective as a service provider is one, to the ease of doing business with your client for them specifically, so that client centricity, and of course your returns that from your advice that they generate, which has nothing to do with technology. It has to do, well, in a way it has to do with technology, or when it comes to investing, your methodology when it comes to investing. One could look at it like technology or innovation. But really, those are the really two things that we focus on when we suggest other people focus on. Technology is only a means to get to that client-centric model.
Very well said, Kartik. I think two things. One part is that how the client benefits, and the ease with which you are able to do the entire thing probably helps you do business. So I mean, like, a lot of things are happening in the industry, and probably in the last 10 years we have seen a whole host of changes, like you mentioned also in the past. Loads of changes have come by. From the point where you are standing, where do you see 10 years from now the industry going? Where is the opportunity? Where you as a firm are focusing upon at this point of time, so that it can be some amount of learning for all the other viewers who are watching us, get as to where they should kind of focus on when it comes to the mutual fund industry as such.
Right. So I would think like, there's nothing that's big bang. One big thing that you do, I think, is those incremental 1% improvements that you make every day. And also the business model matters. Now, I would assume that distribution as a business model, the ease of doing business, the ease for the client to buy whatever they might want to buy, is only going to get better and better, right? So Ideally, a client should have access to anything that they should choose to buy without really putting in too much effort. So I feel the value add, the additional thing that you can give your client is, apart from just a product, is on the advisory side. While the client should have easy access to buy whatever they want, the client needs to be told what those products are. Does it make sense? How does it relate to their life? What is risk management? Does it make, by buying something like, say, equities and then need the money in 3 months, would that be a wise decision or no? So I do think there's a large deficit in our country on the advisory side, while everybody's really now moving more and more into distribution because advisory has become very, very difficult given the regulation. I think we need to spin this across a little differently and think about it. If you were a client, what is the value added service that you can provide that that distinguishes you not just with other people, but the client comes back and says, yes, this is something that's made a difference in our life. So I don't think it's going to be the ability for you to distribute the clients, distribute funds. I think there are plenty of online platforms that are built essentially to be as low cost as possible and give you that availability to buy whatever instruments that you might want. But I don't think there's too much headway or too much emphasis on the advisory component on should you be doing that in the first place, and how do you want to plan your life out, because the compounding that you get from your career, like what we've seen is that essentially people who retire in their 60s, about 30% of the amount of money they will spend from 60 to 90 will come from the money that they have saved through their hardworking careers. 70% has to come from money making money, right? Now, the question is, how do you make sure that your money makes money at a reasonable rate without taking any silly chances? Because you need to do this over a 30-year period. And two is the quantum of money that is required for the sort of spend that you do have. So I think this is quite a nascent field so far. It's fairly fragmented. There's a lot of opportunity for learning, methodology, technology, education, planning. You can have the same investments and make a couple of percent more just by just being well planned. And of course, temperament. You don't need a very, very high IQ game. You don't need to have a very high IQ to play this game. You do need temperament. You do need logic. And that's really going to be those pillars that gets you to where you want to go in your life in terms of your wealth.
Perfect. I think what you bring onto the table and making sure that you see your client through the entire period without a lot of hassle. If I have to surmise that whatever you meant to say, that's a big opportunity because India is a very, very big country. Thanks on that note, Kartik, for spending time with us and sharing your thoughts about the business and how you have basically shaped your business as such. So thank you once again. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.